Higurashi When They Cry by Chapter 4 Himatsubushi. Hello there. By 7 Expansion. Read by Galwano. Yeah, as you could probably see, I actually moved back to YouTube, given how Twitch has been doing their usual thing, and, well, you know what I mean. And how Mixer's still not popular yet, so there's that. Anyway, it's time for the final part of the first half, or the questions arc, and I'm starting with this. And yes, as you read in the description, there won't be any Keiichi Maebara in this. So anyway, yeah, I'm stuck with 720p 60, but I'll get that fixed soon with 1080p. But otherwise, let's get started. Himatsubushi, for you, the final mystery. I entrust you with all the mysteries. Yeah, let me fix... hang on, let me fix the sound real quick. So what happens when you go ill-prepared? I think that's good. Now let's get started. And hello to everyone in the stream. Welcome and enjoy the show. I entrust with all the mysteries hidden within... I now entrust you with all the mysteries hidden within Higurashi When They Cry. However comical it may be, if you have reached any conjecture, then you have passed. This final novel is a meager reward for you. Conjecture is impossible. You have the right to reject this story. No, we'll be going. Who is the criminal, you ask? Don't we search for them in this story? Who's the criminal, you ask? Do you even know what the criminal did? Who's the criminal? Who is the criminal who killed me now? Frederica Birkenstow. I can't read all that. Midsummer 1985. I misread the time and ended up arriving too early. The schedule board flipped with a series of clacks. My flight to Sapporo was still a bit later on. I still had over an hour before boarding. Well, I might as well close my eyes for a bit on that bench over there then. I came here directly from work, so maybe the fatigue from that was making me sleepy. Finding a suitable bench, I put my luggage on the seat next to me and settled down. You, I sighed like an old man. I hope to stay young forever, but have become splendidly middle-aged. Apparently, the rumor that even people in the latter half of their 20s experience a decline in their physical strength wasn't a lie. Yeah, I know what you mean. It had been mind-numbingly busy at work lately, so I rarely had any time to myself. This might have been the first time I'd been able to enjoy a journey alone like this since I was a student. The reason behind this trip was to meet with an old friend. It was a bit strange to call him an old friend. In fact, it might be better to call him a bad one. After retiring a couple years ago, he moved to Sapporo, his mother's hometown. His mother passed away soon after, and he was now peacefully enjoying his second lease on life. His name was Kurado Oishi. Well, I already knew who he was talking about. He was a former detective in the primary investigation unit at station in Okinomiya XX Prefecture. To be honest, the only direct contact we ever had didn't last more than 3 days. After that, we exchanged New Year's cards, but never met again. So this was the first time meeting him in 7 years. In other words, we met 7 years ago, in 1978. And there was something I just had to ask. to ask him about concerning that time. To explain that, it was impossible not to recall the incident that happened back then. That kidnapping, the details and resolution of which were resigned to darkness. Also, it was impossible not to recall a certain mysterious girl. My name is sorry if I have a hard time pronouncing this, but Mamoru Akasaka. I don't know how to pronounce the first name, but I know that name was used in like Madoka. It was a year that had been strangely hot, even though it was only June. Early summer, 1978. Goodbye, teacher. Okay, bye. Watch out for cars, and don't drop in at a friend's house along the way. Make sure you get your textbooks in order for tomorrow before you go to bed. Clatter, clatter, clatter. The lively sound of children running towards the hallway. Hey now, didn't I tell you before? I already have one of those. I don't need any more. Unique high-pitched voice of youth. The energetic shrill of the cicadas went completely unheard by ears. The energetic shrill. Children returning home from school split off one by one from their groups of friends as they went through intersections in a residential area. Even though there were several of them in the group as they left the school, as they got closer to their homes, their numbers dwindled. That's why the fewer friends you were walking home with acted as an indicator that you were that closer to your destination. Later. See ya. Yeah, see you tomorrow. He finally parted ways with his last friend. A van was parked at the bend in the road. The window was open, the sound of the radio leaking outside. It must have been the news or something. For that reason, the three of them were arrested for traffic violation and obstruction of justice. To the protests against the Hinamizawa Dam project. Due to the protests against the Hinamizawa Dam project, resulting in bloodshed when clashing with riot police last month. Things have only become more violent. The police are therefore taking precautions against radical activists, causing yet another incident. Hang on a sec, I forgot to turn on the lights again. Okay, I'm back. Where was I? The police are therefore taking precautions against radical activists, causing yet another incident. Last week, there were also a direct confrontation. There we go. Hi Usagi, how are you doing tonight? Last week, there was also a direct confrontation with Minister Inugai on the steps of the Ministry of Construction. The boy's ears perked up at the mention of the name Inugai. At the moment, a man's face peeked out suddenly from the window of the van. His behavior was a little different than that of a man, looking around to see if there was any incoming traffic before he opened the door of his vehicle. His eyes meeting suddenly with the familiar man, the boy panicked slightly. And hi, Odin. Nightingale, okay. Skylark, okay. They secured the 2 blocks around us. We're good to go. The man in the passenger seat whispered quietly. You're right. The only thing I changed was adding a capital G on my name years back. Nodding in acknowledgement, the man opened the door and stood before the boy. You? Are you Toshiki Inugai-kun? While asking that, the man peered at the boy's name tag. Toshiki Inugai. The name was written plainly there. The phone rang for a 3rd time. If he reached out, he could probably pick up the receiver. However, he was concerned that if he picked it up before it even finished ringing once, whoever was on the other end of the line would think him a fairly cheap person. That's why he normally never picked up the phone until the 3rd ring, even though it was a worthless habit. However, his thinking that there isn't much meaning in waiting for just 3 rings. Wouldn't waiting for 5 be alright? Was it very much a reality? His mind filled with such trifling thoughts, he picked up the phone after the 3rd ring had finished, its reverb dampened by his action. Yes? Hello? Hello? He knew that sometimes, due to a malfunction at the switchboard, calls didn't connect well. At those times, it was best to hang up and let the person on the other end call again. Thinking that, the moment he began to hang up the phone, he sensed that he was definitely connected after all. He felt the presence of the person on the other end of the line keeping silent. Hello? There was no way they didn't hear his question. What was the meaning of this? It wasn't like he didn't know that people could use silent calls to harass others. However, he'd never received a call like that until today. Maybe he was just lucky before, but he didn't believe that he would receive such a phone call on his phone. There were no direct calls to or from this line. Everything had to go through an operator. Therefore, there was absolutely no way the call would be connected unless it was verified there was somebody else on the other end of the line. Oh, looks like I can't add it to any playlists yet. Okay. I don't know who you are, but if you have nothing to say, I'm going to hang up. Please call again some other time. Intending that to be the parting line, he made a slam down the receiver. It was at that moment the person on the other end spoke for the first time. You didn't say who you were, so I was anxious. Oh, maybe I'll go with the normal voice. You're not Mr. Inugai. Please hang up right away. He couldn't help but be surprised by the extremely strange voice on the other... Oh, that would have worked. On the other end of the line. Was there a human alive who could speak with this hoarse and metallic voice? No, this was a voice he heard somewhere before. That was the kind of voice that was on those lowbrow documentaries that they used when they wanted to hide the identity of a speaker, wasn't it? The voice he was hearing over the line was exactly like that. Who are you? As I said, that's what I want to ask. Are you Minister Inugai? Inugai hesitated to answer, but unable to discern the intent of this suspicious phone call. He had a vague feeling that something was off. He thought about hanging up the phone and asking the operator who initiated the call. However, he forced himself to restrain that urge, and for the time being chose to state his name and listen. That's right, this is you, new guy. I said my name, now say yours.
My name doesn't matter. First of all, let's begin by thinking about the situation you're in right now. Right now, you're sitting in your chair, talking on the phone, yes? Then why don't you try opening the lower drawer to your right?
The lowest drawer to the right of the minister's chair. There was a lock on it, not enough to function as a safe, but nevertheless, it was a drawer that contained some valuable things. That's why Inu guy thought that the person wanted some of the important information contained with that drawer. Hang on, let me fix the opacity of my... like my tag thingy. Sorry, but I don't have any intention of opening that. I have no reason to follow orders from somebody who won't even give me his name.
If you don't open that drawer, I'll hang up the phone. You will most likely end up regretting that. Why don't you think about opening that drawer first?
Inu guy didn't like following orders from this suspicious person one bit. However, he was concerned about what the man said about regretting it. So he decided to open the drawer. He took the small key he kept stored in his wallet and unlocked the drawer. His hand stopped right before he opened it. What if there was a bomb inside and it would explode if the drawer was open? That delusion took hold of him. He quelled that instinct and opened it.
Did you do it? The thing that's in there. Do you know what it is?
What is the meaning of this? Hey!
I don't think there's any need for me to explain, is there? I'll give you some time, so please think about it a little. I'll contact you again later. Now then, pardon me.
Hey! Wait! Hello? Hello? The call had already ended. That would not change no matter how much he yelled at it. Even still, Inu guy, without realizing that, continued yelling into the receiver for a while. The drawer was still open. On top of the folders crammed into the drawer, it laid there. Toshiki Inu guy. Written in plain lettering on a grade schooler name tag, just lying there. Enshrined there, completely out of place, as if it were cowering. This is a work of fiction. Any resemblance... Yeah, we get it. Higurashi when they cry. You have to move this. Do you remember, Yuki? This picture, this is where I first proposed to you. That brief moment before you nodded back, you probably wouldn't know just how much it seemed like an eternity to me. Yes, I would never have thought that amount of time could feel like an eternity. Compared to how long I had to wait for you to propose to me, it was... From the moment I met you until today, compared to the time I spent since I was born, it might have been only a brief period, but they were definitely precious, beautiful days that deserve to be called an eternity. That time continues even now. From now on, I wonder if I'll be a boy, or maybe a girl. Either one is fine. Boy or girl, either way, it's living proof that we love each other. If it's a boy, we'll name it after you, Mamoru. Mamoru. If it's a girl, we'll put the name Yuki from my name in hers. Thinking about names is so fun in the end, we haven't decided yet. There's still time to puzzle over it. Yeah, there's still time to puzzle over it. Not long Not that long of a time, actually. You see, Yukie. I'll just pronounce this like Yukie. There's something I have to apologize for today. It's my job. Sorry. It looks like an annoying bit of work has come up. In the worst case, I might not be able to be there for that delivery. It's fine. You have a very important job. What you do protects the way we live. Compared to you, it's nothing. Please, go ahead. When you return, I'll be waiting here with our child. Thank you. Also, I'm sorry. Please don't apologize. If you feel guilty about it, then you could just atone. If I atone that much, no matter how much money I have, it won't be enough. It's a joke. Now, go on. As I left the room, I bumped into an elderly man. It was Yukie's father. In other words, my father-in-law. Father? I didn't want to intrude, so I waited in the hall. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I heard. Go. Yukie is that kind of girl. No matter what happens, she doesn't want to hold you back. I've forced Yukie to give up on so many things to put her through during childbirth. Such an important time in her life. I'm ashamed. If you really feel that way, when you're done with your work, make some time for Yukie. I see. She'll be happier with that than you passing your work off on someone else. Thank you. I know full well you do important work. I know. Be proud in what you do. Yukie is looking forward to your triumphant in return. Yes. I jumped into the taxi that was waiting outside. Compared to the time when I got here, the numbers on the fare meter have grown considerably. It seemed the modest time Yukie and I had spent together wasn't so modest from an objective point of view. You know, it kind of reminds me of like that one time when the trains were down in the downtown area. I would have called my parents to pick me up, but I want to feel like an adult and just take the taxi like home. I'll probably say, despite the money I had to spend on it, it was pretty fun if you ask me. Especially at talking to the driver who was like a foreigner, let's say. That was pretty fun, if you ask, is all I could say. It seemed like the modest time Yukie and I had spent together wasn't so modest from an objective point of view. Sorry to keep you waiting, go ahead. No worries. Well then, off we go. The taxi jerked as it changed gears to accelerate, soon burying the hospital my wife was behind in a throng of buildings. If it was to end up as a really troublesome ordeal, I probably wouldn't be returning for quite some time. To call a rookie like me, and on top of that, one who's off duty, it seemed that the section chief was calling for all hands on deck. The veteran upper brass gathering on an emergency basis happened occasionally. This was the first time, though, I had experienced everybody gathering together like this. Whatever was happening, there was no doubt it was going to be something novel. Right when my wife was ready to give birth, if I wanted to spend the time to curse my misfortunes, I'd be here all day. Even the verdant ginkgo trees lining the streets that always brighten my mood seemed to lack some of the usual lustres. Eventually, the government office came into view. Briefly holding my breath, I let the feelings of tension course through my body once again. I had to remember the work I was doing was important, not necessary. Wait, hang on. I was doing was important, necessary, and difficult. Okay, I'll try. Okay. I composed myself and sharpened my wit. Ready. The taxi stopped in front of the building. Katsumi Gaseki, Tokyo. And all these texts, though. Chief, everyone here. Akasaka-kun, could you close the blinds? Yeah. The blinds were usually closed when they needed to use the projector, or if the discussion was going to contain some particularly disturbing content. The blinds closed with a satisfying sound, darkening the interior of the room. Immediately, the inside of the room was completely drained of the pleasant morning atmosphere, leaving behind only the cold illumination of the fluorescent lighting. After the supervisor ensured that everyone was present, he nodded to the section chief once again. With everybody on the edge of their seat, the chief stood up solemnly and began to give his report. Approximately 48 hours ago, the Minister of Construction's grandson, who is also the son of one of the staff leader, is believed to have been kidnapped. It is believed the minister, in an effort to resolve matters amicably, chose not to report the situation to the police and plans to see to the demands imposed upon him. It seemed that approximately 48 hours earlier, the Minister of Construction's grandson and those of his senior staff members were kidnapped. The reason why it was phrased that way was because the person in question didn't admit had happened. Based on the results of surveillance conducted on the minister's residence, multiple suspicious phone calls from what is believed to be outside the city took place. The abducted child is said to be under treatment for some illness, but there was no trace of any hospital records or witnesses to such effect. Due to that and various other reasons, we believe without a doubt that a kidnapping has occurred. Here, they omitted the details that brought this incident to light. If you think about it a bit, that meant that before this incident happened, the minister residence had been under surveillance already. I won't use the word spied on. Yeah, I'll just wait till the text is finished. Of course, there wouldn't have been court approval for this, and it would have been very hard to explain to ordinary citizens. However, it was quite an effective method to catch wind of incidents like this before they got worse. I'd like for you to understand that why am I quick saving so much? There's really no need if the game doesn't crash as much. Oh geez, I'm probably gonna jinx that soon. Dealing with these cases before they become a problem is the job of the Public Safety Division. Why is he just following their demands instead of reporting this to the police? The fact that a minister can't even trust the police, what is the world coming to? You know what the funny thing is? It almost seems like I've gotten a bit desensitized to the music as well now. It seems the group of perpetrators demonstrated that they have quite a high level of surveillance on the minister themselves when they conducted the kidnappings, enough to give the minister pause before calling the police. We'll find out right away if you call the cops, more or less. So it's possible there's a mole close to the minister. Several of the higher ranking members who seem to have experience with this kind of thing let out deep sighs. The goal of the perpetrators, their demands, as well as this entire incident are, as of yet, unclear. In any case, the possibility that this may grow to threaten national interest is extremely high. If their goal was to simply have their demands met for monetary gain, that would have been nice. However, if this was some politically motivated shakeup, things would get a lot more complicated. Since we're not receiving any cooperation from the victim, that means that we're not privy to any of the details of the threats or demand. Due to the fact we believe there may be a mole involved in this incident, this investigation is highly classified. Only to the people in this room are to know of this. Furthermore, as this case is our utmost priority, we'll be placing a hold on everybody's normal duties. Understood? After that, the supervisor continued on, tactfully explaining our course of action. If this incident were to become public, it was possible that the minister's political life would be over. And I'll spare you the explanation of how the rest of the dominoes would fall, but in the end, support in the Diet would decline, followed by no confidence vote and a snap election. Yeah, I'm tripping words! Oh no! And it might even expand communist influences. Alright, I forgot this is the late 70s we're talking about. In other words, we wanted to handle this delicately. Kawasaki and Saiki monitor communication from the minister and the child's residences 24/7. Find out what the minister is doing. Report anything that happens. The remaining members investigate whatever is related to the case as assigned to your units. Focus on your line of investigation on the commies, reds, and confeds. Oh my god, you know this is the 70s where you're talking about when they're talking about this, or like Cold War era. Yeah. Anyway, don't discount the possibility of foreign involvement either. I've experienced one or two unamicable situations before. This, however, was the first time I've seen things get so hectic. Several sophisticated conversations were progressing without the involvement of a rookie like me. I didn't intend to be timid, but I couldn't hide my confusion at this unfamiliar situation. And cover that. As for Akasaka-kun, I snapped back to the alertness upon hearing my name called. Yeah, like I said, as the descriptions say, this is the first time where we won't be playing as Keiichi Maebara. Yes, you investigate the environmental groups that have petitioned the minister. Among them, there's a group protesting the Hinamizawa Dam project that made the papers. Make sure you investigate them thoroughly. I doubt this is the act of some citizen group, but we have to eliminate every possibility we can. Understood. So, those opposed to the Hinamizawa Dam, it's probably best if you go to the location personally. Get some information from the local authorities. They're a fairly radical organization, so the public safety division there should have them marked as well. Yeah, I know what you mean by radical. Understood. Or maybe fanatical might be a better word. Understood, I'll head over there. Your wife, she's almost ready to give birth, isn't she? I apologize for the timing of all this, but I'm counting on your cooperation. We can't take our time with this, so we just have to brute force it with our boots to the ground. Yeah, I know. My wife hates to interfere with my work, with her own circumstances anyway. Sorry, and thanks. So then, as for Kawasaki-kun and Saiki-kun, Psyche, I better remember that. To help support your... I didn't want to take a business trip when my wife was about to give birth. Even if I was a little busy, as long as I was in Tokyo, I could head to the hospital right away. On assignment though, that would be difficult. Even so, I knew the work I was doing was important, and fully understood that I was in no position to be so selfish. I'd have to make it up to my wife for having to be away at such an important time. My wife, Yukie, would probably forgive me with a smile. The only thing she could hate doing would be holding me back. My male ego, though, at least wish she would have tried to stop me. Sorry, Yukie. I don't mind if you always complain to our child that their father couldn't come to the hospital when they were born because he was too busy with work. The next day, I took the bullet train to Nagoya, and from there transferred to the train to unknown prefecture. Getting to my destination by land took several hours. If I was traveling by air, in the amount of time I could probably get as far as Hong Kong, prefecture was by no means close. I never sat in first class except for work, but whenever I did, this seat seemed stiff. Closing my eyes, I mentally reviewed the documents I read yesterday. The group under investigation, the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. They were a group of residents opposed to the development proposed under the Hinamizawa Dam project. The local protests were quite heated and getting more radicalized. Even limited to what was written in newspapers, there was bloodshed that occurred during a clash with riot police, interference with the dam construction, too many to count. The number of petitions, sit-ins, and direct appeals to the relevant organizations were innumerable. As an extension of that, there was a direct appeal to the Minister of Construction the other day. This was the reason why we were investigating this group in the first place. The land that they lived on was going to be submerged, so it was no wonder they would go into a frenzy over it. Given that though, could they really be capable of doing something like kidnapping the Minister of Construction's grandson in order to halt the project? From my take, I had serious doubts. The kidnapping was extremely sophisticated and complicated enough that it was believed there was some political backing. This wasn't something that could be pulled off by some group of local protesters. Well, just like the chief said, the plan was to eliminate all possibilities. While I'm in the police reference rooms taking my time investigating, the higher-ups in Tokyo would probably solve the case without my involvement entirely. Even if that was true, I couldn't regret being away from Tokyo while my wife was ready to give birth. This was work. There was really nothing that I could do. Ding dong! The announcement that we will be arriving at our destination soon snapped me back to wakefulness. Gogora, Prefectural Public Safety Division. The Onigafuchi Defense Alliance? Yeah, they've been quite active around here. The Prefectural Public Safety Department already had the documents and a cup of tea ready and waiting for me. The short of it is, they're a group of residents opposed to the dam. Really, it's probably better to say that the residents living on the land that's going to be submerged is rising to action, though. Like the old saying, fight to the last, they're determined and well prepared a lot. It'd be nice if they drew the line at just being a moderate residential organization. The sack of paper they had prepared for me in the document room was by no means thin. At first, they were pretty much your average citizen initiative, but ever since that incident with the riot police, they've really started to heat up. Now they've got a violent mentality on top of growing increasingly radical. Violent organizations usually indicate ones that enforce their own ideology without regards to democratic process. Yeah, let me lower this a bit. Jeez, it's even loud like at this volume. Good grief. Violent organizations usually indicate ones that enforce their own ideology without regards to the democratic process. Breaking that down, many of the organizations had left extreme left revolutionary ideologies. Considering that, I couldn't help but be surprised that a citizen group would end up going this far. Radical citizen movements happen occasionally. It seemed, however, that this group was nothing as trifling as that. It seemed that I would have had to reconsider exactly what this Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was. The Defense Alliance's demand, in other words, the withdrawal of the dam project, how far would they go to have that demand met? The kidnapping of the minister's grandson was classified. That meant, of course, I couldn't tell the prefectural department about it either. As you know, there were arrests after last week's confrontation with Minister Inugai. There's enough reason to believe they could use illegal means to assert their demands. I skimmed over the list of criminal records related to the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance record in the documents. The contents were all violent, not giving me the barest hint of a feeling that these people were trying to uphold the law. Could you give me a basic rundown of the types of illegal activities the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance are engaging in? The chief opened up a manila envelope, fished out several unorganized sheets, and spread them out on the desk. It seems that raids on the construction site are the most common. At first, they were committing relatively petty crimes like cutting power cords, jamming locks, and breaking office windows by throwing rocks. Of course, what really happened first were things like demonstrations, sit-ins, and distribution of pamphlets, lively but democratic forms of protest. However, then, the demonstrators and police clash, which started a riot, and leading to numerous injuries and arrests. It was from then on that the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance, like their name implies, began to take more demonish forms of resistance. If the raids were frequent, didn't the local police up their patrols? Well, of course, they're on full alert, but they were up against the locals, you know. There wasn't much the police could do if they were sneaking around under the cover of darkness. You might as well label the entire map of Hinamizawa village around the dam construction site enemy territory. No matter how alert the police were, the locals would just show them exactly how easy it was to sneak around. Actually, it was after the police upped security that the protesters started getting ever more extreme, as though they were being provoked. See here? Can you tell how things started to heat up? An office set on fire, the destruction of heavy construction equipment. Destruction? They couldn't have used explosives. No way. You see, they crammed the gas tanks full of sugar cubes. If you do that, it fouls the engine. Even in Japan, it seemed like there had been people doing that to the vehicles of occupying forces right after the war. Compared to misdemeanors like breaking windows, it was extremely violent and aggressive. Yeah, hang on a second. Okay, after being toyed around with to that extent, the local police have completely lost face. The arson was a bit much. After that, the local police drastically increased numbers of personnel that they had stationed around the clock. The raids on the construction site quieted down a bit after that. He used the words quiet down, but that was still smack dab in the middle of the list of crimes. See, after that they found that attacking the site had become difficult, that they started resorting to personal attacks. The first people targeted were the construction workers. After that, there was silence. What was being described to me was a guerrilla war fought in the jungle. Threats and violence against the workers, harsh words, and harsher rocks were thrown. There's quite a list of accusations here, but there's not a whole lot of conviction. Of course not. First of all, there's no witnesses. On top of that, even if we identified the perpetrators, they have alibis coming out of their woodwork. What do you mean by that? And hi, Scenic, how are you doing tonight? Take for example, you're walking around Hinamizawa. When a certain man stabs you with a knife, you remember the person clearly, even if you know his name and address. Ah, I'm good. Just finishing off the first half of Higurashi. However, the knife doesn't have any fingerprints on it, and there's no physical evidence. Oh, alibi? Thank you. Yeah, you better help me with any mispronunciations I do. Well, you think this would be a run-of-the-mill case of assault, wouldn't you? In Hinamizawa, though, it's a perfect crime. Wow, the thing that Keiichi kept talking about last time. Everybody is, the entire village, they're all on it. To protect the man who was the perpetrator, they'll get their story straight and prepare an alibi. Yeah, thank you, Usagi. To that end, they'll probably even forge some evidence. There's nothing they could do but put them on trial. On top of that, not being any material evidence, though, people testify one after another to cover his side of the story. Any prosecutors would hesitate to file charges. And I'm not sure about murder, but if it's something like opening a gash on somebody's forehead with a thrown rock, or leaving a bruise after hitting someone, even if you could single out the suspect, there's enough reasonable doubt not to convict. Every case is without a doubt perpetrated by someone in Hinamizawa, but they can't identify who. Even if they could figure out who it is, they're unable to obtain enough circumstantial evidence through due process. The villagers were all extremely well informed about this, and so malicious, vicious, and tenacious personal attacks continued. The victims can't have been okay with that, right? Couldn't they have been filed for an appeal? Well, you see, about that, everybody on the inquest committee didn't want to get involved with something so troublesome. They won't stick their noses into anything related to Hinamizawa. The inquest committee is comprised of a random selection of local residents. In the event of the prosecutor fails to get a conviction, they have the power to order a retrial. It's a system designed to assert the will of the people on the action of expert prosecutors in the legal world. In this case, however, being composed of local residents has backfired. They don't want to get involved? Why is that? How do I explain this? You could say they're afraid, since it's a little special here. Special? Is it an outcast community? No, it's a little different from that. Well, just think of it as them being afraid. It's a little hard to explain it just now. Oh, right. There's an easier way. Wiping his forehead with a handkerchief, he opened a file labeled as a list of members of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. The power of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance, you see, is the fact that they count many people among their members who are influential in neighboring areas. Could you take a look at this? I looked. What I saw startled me. Prefectural municipal assembly members, staff members of the Chamber of Commerce, an executive of a business association, an executive of the town council association, and PTA liaison. There were more than a few people with a lot to say both locally and in the neighboring regions. Around here, you could pretty much expect your actions to be observed by those against the dam project. If you said something in his support, who knows how it'd work to your disadvantage. In any case, every town in this area is being held by the throat by somebody from Hinamizawa. The list of Inquisition Committee members is undisclosed, isn't it? There has to be measure in place to make sure they'd avoid retribution, no? Well, it is undisclosed, so their privacy is assured, but the person in charge of that is from the Okinomiya Municipal Office. In other words, a loco. While you might expect some professional I can't even say it right now. You can't know how everybody is connected. The people from Hinamizawa have a lot of tight bonds in that regard. When you consider the obligation and duties people have to that region, the web of information thereby is formed is nothing scoffed at. It's quite uncommon for housewives in a neighborhood to know which kid from which house is what grade in which school, what subjects they're good at, and what vegetables they hate. Among other things. You see, there's a Yakuza organization here with strong ties to Hinamizawa and the surrounding area. It would seem that they're providing full support in recent incidents. They seem to be proving most effective. Gangsters siding together with the residents opposed to the construction of the dam? It's a little hard to see what their common interest is. It's not that difficult at all. You see, actually, one of the lieutenants in the gang is originally from Hinamizawa. He was adopted into a rather influential family in the village. Exactly what was this Hinamizawa? I had thought it was some desolate rustic village. However, for some reason, they exerted a strong influence on the surrounding areas and had a strong sense of unity. They would protect their village by any means necessary, even if that meant resorting to violence. The chief has said that they were afraid because there were numerous influential people living there. But somehow, I got the feeling that they were afraid of the village itself. There was something clearly different from what I read in the documents in Tokyo. This was no simple residential protest against the dam. For some reason, an uneasy feeling began to nestle itself at the back of my mind. I chose the most basic way to ask my question. In other words, I directly asked what I wanted to know. Chief, this is a hypothetical situation, but... Huh? This Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. In order to halt the dam project, do you think that they could say threaten somebody important to accomplish that? The chief replied immediately, it's possible. Truth be told, they've already gone to municipal and prefectural offices, as well as local offices of the Ministry of Construction, and done things that could be construed as intimidation. Several of the workers' family have reported that they're being followed around by some suspicious people. Well, that would make sense. To halt progress on the dam, they raided the construction site, destroying heavy machinery and lighting the construction office on fire. If they didn't have any qualms about doing that, threats and violence against people related to the dam would probably be no problem. But that was it. Even your everyday hoodlum could use threats and violence. However, this time it was a kidnapping of the minister's grandson, an abnormally high-level crime. Not only was pulling off the kidnapping difficult in the first place, but so was maneuvering to have the minister surrender to their demands immediately. There was no way this was the work of amateurs. Did these people have the power to enact this large of a crime? That was the heart of the matter. Was the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance an organization capable of pulling this off? In order to ask that question once again, I chose the most basic method. Again, hypothetically, do you think they could kidnap a relative, someone of political importance? There's no way they could pull off something that big. That was the answer I most hoped for. Oh, sorry about that. If that was the answer, my work was as good as halfway done. I might be able to get back in time for my wife to give birth. That was how it was supposed to be. The chief, without a hint of hesitation, replied, I haven't gotten desensitized to that noise. They just might. There's no telling how far they'd go. Sorry, Yukie. It seemed like my work wouldn't end it so simply after all. Oh, Akasaka-kun, good work. Oh. How's the information gathering at the prefectural office? It's coming along. It seems I'll be able to meet with their local police a local public safety department, so I'm planning on heading out that way. God, I can't even read today. How's the investigation in Tokyo going? The others are progressing along, but the number of groups we have to investigate are countless. Time isn't really a luxury here. There were no new developments at this time. No matter how suspicious the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was, if they solved the case in Tokyo, my job was done. It looked like my wishful thinking wouldn't come to pass. Hanging up on the phone, I let my gaze drift outside the window to the valley of unfamiliar buildings. Akasaka-san? A car you can borrow just returned. I'll take you to it, so follow me. Ah, thank you. He showed me the elevator to the underground parking lot, where the battered sedan was waiting for me. That the steering wheel kept drifting to the left was a little concerning, but it would be enough to get me around for a while. My destination was Shishibone City, XX Prefecture, an area under control of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. The Okinomiya police station was right on the front lines. But I wanted to meet Rika-chan already. That's all I care about. Yeah, she's also one of my favorites in this series as well, along with Rena. Shion, of course. Who can forget about her? Okinomiya Police Station. Shishibone City was as far as cities went, rather behind the times. Okinomiya, recessed in the mountains, was even more remote. With little change between the seasons, all that was left was the tepid passage of time. It made for a rather drab town. There were no tourist attractions or local delicacies. Without even a strong regional industry, it was simply dull. Provincial, is that right? Thanks. Just looking at the monotonous and peaceful landscape, it was hard to catch a glimpse of the radical resistance of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. The atmosphere of boredom didn't hint of the Okinomiya police station being on the front lines of the damn conflict, nor of the numerous incidents that I've heard about at the prefectural headquarters. Good morning. Are you here to pay a fine? No, I have an appointment with Motodai-san from the Public Safety Division. Oh, with Motodai-san from the Public Safety Division. Please tell him is Akasaka. Ah, my apologies. Please wait a minute. The clerk, who I thought was here for a parking violation at first glance, after fumbling with the unfamiliar extension number, told the person on the line they had a visitor. Welcome. Akasaka-san, was it? It must have been tiring traveling out all this way. Sorry, we have to do this here. I tried to reserve a reception room, you see. But the counselor suddenly woke up and chased me out. Wahaha! I would hesitate to call where we were a conference room. As it was very small and cluttered, the cramped space was packed with lockers. I had the impression that it was more of a change room that doubled as one for smoking. Listening to his crude chortles, I didn't get much a feeling that Motodai, oh god, who was head of the local public safety division. Oh my god, yeah, no, seriously, I can't even read today. Was much of an intellectual, but I knew that in exchange, he had both an experience and absolute confidence in his instincts. I apologize for interrupting you during such a busy time. Okay. I'm Akasaka from the Metropolitan Police Department. Pleased to make your acquaintance. Motodai from the Public Safety Division. Nice to meet ya. I was threatened by Sankai from the prefectural gangbusters to be generous with my cooperation. Wahahaha. Gangbusters? Ghostbusters! That one came to mind. Oh, God. You mean the Prefectural Crime Prevention Division? You see, we're treating the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance as an extension of the local Yakuza. You'd have to be a newbie if you think they're just a residential protest group. Wahaha! They said at the prefectural office, too, that the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was linked to the local mob. Is that slow enough, Usagi? If I recall correctly, the adopted son of somebody influential was a lieutenant in that gang. It's the other way around. The complete opposite. The Yakuza put up the protest group as a front to justify their actions. Just think of it like that. Completely the other way around. Wahaha. Motodai was just about rolling with laughter. This was slightly different than the info given to me at the prefectural office, but somebody embedded locally would be more knowledgeable. While we were talking, occasionally, some people who seemed to be detectives would come in and change. One of those individuals, noticing Motodai's Goffids? I can't say that. Came up to us. Oh, there he is. About time. Let me turn this up a bit. I was wondering what you guys were about. Man, that's some sick jazz beats, though. I don't know, this kind of music makes me feel nostalgic. Guafas? I was wondering what you guys were talking about. Oh, Kura-chan. Perfect timing. Why don't you join us? This here is Inspector Akasaka, who came all the way from the Tokyo Police Department. An inspector? I'm still a rookie. My name is Akasaka. Pleased to meet you. It must be nice to be so fresh-faced. Did they hire you this year? I couldn't help but think I was being ridiculed. I only responded with a forced smile. I could tell that this new person was like Motodai, the type who had confidence in their instincts and experience. And thanks for the likes for all the people that gave me to the stream. I really appreciate that. I could tell that this new person was like Motodai, the type who had confidence in their instincts and experience. I really didn't like those types of people. Let me introduce you, Akasaka-san. Why am I still using honorifics? I know I'm probably gonna use it for Chan and Kun, but I know what San means. It's basically Mr. Akasaka. This is Oishi-kun. I don't know, I've heard like in the anime it's like oi, like oi. I don't know, who knows? Stuck loading, you might want to refresh. This is Oishi-kun from our investigative department. Regarding the S-files you were asking about, he's familiar with it. S-file? S for Sonosaki. If something is an S-file, it means it has something to do with the Sonosaki family. It's something of a code name. Sonosaki? Come to think of it, I remembered when I was poring over the documents at headquarters, there were quite a few people with the last name Sonosaki popping up. If I remember right, there's a Sonosaki who is one of the executives of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. I'm pretty sure they're the treasurer. Yeah, I'm probably gonna listen to this song after this. I really love this song. In fact, maybe once I finish this, who knows? I want to put it on my Galwano's favorite games of all time list, which is gonna be updated soon. The two of them were surprised when I rattled off what the post... Oh, slow down. The two of them were surprised when I rattled off what post that Sonosaki held. After that moment, both of them erupted into laughter. Mr. Akasaka, was it? You're quite the studious one. Could it be you've memorized all the central figures in the Alliance? I wouldn't say memorize exactly, but I have at least read the list of Onigafuchi Defense Alliance executives. Oh my god, Diablo just came to mind when you said fresh meat. Then, who are the president and vice president? The president is the mayor of Hinamizawa, Keiichi Maebara. The vice president is the priest of the local shrine, Furude. The treasurer is O Sonosaki, the auditor of Makino. The liaison is Y Kimiyoshi. Wow, I couldn't help but think like, why Kimiyoshi, why? The PR head is Y Sonosaki. Nah, Mr. Akasaka, you're pretty good. The pay stinks, but you want to work here. You're just the type we're looking for. By the way, Yoshio Sonosaki is the head of the youth department. So close. The head of the public relations is actually Tadayoshi Sonosaki. Feeling like I wasn't being complimented at all, I started settling into an uncomfortable mood. However, I was becoming more and more aware that I was the weakest link in this investigation, so I just had to bear with it. I didn't mean for that feeling to show up on my face, but the crafty detectives didn't let that slip by. Nah, I didn't mean to make fun of you. To make up for it, why don't I show you around the village? And disclaimer for everyone, or at least watching the stream for the first time, yes, I usually use euphemisms and just blur out the words if it's like swear words, cause yeah, unlike many other people, that's not how I roll. For somebody with no feel for the area like me, it would be a great help. And also, there's also a thing called courtesy. I couldn't have asked for more. In the end, the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance is nothing more than an alias Hinamizawa is using to deal with the outside world, and also being professional. I don't know why I said that, but you know what I mean. I think getting to know the village would speed up your work. How about it? The residential movement, in other words, held influence over the whole region. So the leader of the movement was the leader of that influence. Just like that, the thought processes, oh Jesus, in the region would become the overall personality of the movement. Just like Oishi said, in order to learn what they were really like, the regional force behind the dam protests, getting to know the village was the quickest way, if you would. Nodding back without skipping a beat, Oishi laughed in satisfaction and stood up. If I took the information I learned at the prefectural office and from Motodai to heart, if my position was exposed, my personal safety was at risk. The opponent was an extremist group that had no qualms about using threats or violence against somebody. If my personal info was leaked, it wouldn't be hard to imagine that that I'd be in danger, whether on the job or not. Thinking that, I felt a little nervous. These guys are quick to remember faces. If you're seen with me, they'll probably do a lot to hinder your work. This might be a little cliche, but put these on. Oishi handed me an incredibly suspicious disguise, comprised of a baseball cap, sunglasses, and a mask. I didn't want to get all hot and stiffy, but Oishi's warning was probably right on the money. Considering that, I put them on with appreciation. I looked so suspicious that Oishi had to smile warily. How much did I tell you again? Let's see. To the part where you were talking about how these three ancient families control the village. I was beginning to like that song. The Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was the same as the village of Hinamizawa itself, meaning there was a direct correlation between being an executive in the alliance and being a leader in the village, as Motodai had told me a short time ago. If the village was ruled by three ancient families, then it would mean the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was ruled by those same three families. What did the documents at the prefectural office say about the leader of the Defense Alliance or whatnot? The documents I was using were classified. If I responded to Oishi's question, it'd be a breach of security. However, most likely, this man, I judge, was well versed in the situation than any of the documents at the prefectural police department, so I decided to answer him. That the president of the alliance is the current mayor of the village, Kichiro Himiyoshi. Oishi, upon hearing that, let out a small chuckle. For him to ask that and to laugh at the answer, as it was recorded in the documents, meant that that wasn't the case in reality. So then, that means there's somebody else other than Kimiyoshi behind the scenes. Contrary to what the prefectural office thinks, or rather, what is commonly known. Old man Kimiyoshi is nothing more than a figurehead. In the first place, the post of the mayor in the village is nothing more than ceremonial. Like the Queen of England, I'll ask. In other words, there's something else in charge of both the village and both the alliance and the village. Would that be the three families we just talked about? Well, I'll explain that part now. All of a sudden, with a thunk, the car suddenly lurched. The paved road had given way to a gravel one. At the same time, the scenery outside the window changed. The Hinamizawa Dam project must be withdrawn. Overthrow the shameless puppet of a governor. The dam will submerge the natural beauty of Hinamizawa. Protect the village from the unethical dam. Fear the wrath of Oyashiro-sama's curse. Demolish the dam. Those involved must go away. The construction office must respond. The office manager must negotiate with us. Signs and banners crowded the roadside. Even reading the brush scrawled words are daunting. It was as though the road just changed was a border with a different country. At that moment, I was startled by the car's sudden braking. Looking ahead, a barricade had been erected. About 5 or 6 protesters wearing masks and helmets to hide their face were blocking the road, yelling at us angrily to stop. What is this? A checkpoint? These guys never learn. Oishi snorted as he rolled down the window and leaned out. Hey, you guys! You can't be blocking the road like this here. As Oishi glared at them with a malicious laugh, they visibly faltered. Clear that way. We can't get by like this. No. Who would have thought it was Oishi's car? That panicked thought seemed to make them lose their presence of mind. If we had known it was your car, Detective Oishi, we wouldn't have been so rude. Okay, there we go. Detective, what happened to your usual car? Is it in for maintenance? Something like that. I just can't get used to this car they loaned me. No. Judging from their brief conversation, I could guess that they were familiar with the license plate of the car Oishi normally used. In other words, if they knew the car belonged to the police, they would have hidden the barricade. What they were doing was obviously obstruction of traffic, a blatant crime. Who's that suspicious guy? You could show us your face. The man glared at me menacingly. Wearing a mask and sunglasses made me look particularly dubious. Would not showing my face get me into some unnecessary trouble? I turned to Oishi to see what I should do. Give him a break. He's still a shy little rookie. No. We just wanted to make sure he wasn't anybody suspicious. Hinamizawa has been in a bit of a stir as of late. Have you looked at yourself in the mirror? That mask you're wearing is way more suspicious. The men and Oishi continued to talk like that, feigning smiles at one another. However, from the beginning to the end, I couldn't get over the feeling I was sitting on a powder keg. Has the number of trucks legally or illegally dumping still not decreased? It's a real hassle dealing with it all the time. If the police could understand and cooperate, it would really help. During that conversation, the barricade was moved, leaving a gap wide enough for a single car to get through. Oishi lightly honked the horn once and began to roll the car forward. I could see the men's antagonistic glare at the back of the car in the rearview mirror. What was that just now? Blocking a public road like that? Of course it's a crime. Still, if you get worked up over that, it'll never end. Those guys, see, claim there's an infestation of trucks illegally dumping in the village. Their story goes that in order to stop that, they're halting suspicious vehicles for inspection. Illegal dumping? Like corrupt contractors just tossing industrial waste away? Their line of argument is that if the police aren't going to do anything about it, they'll take matters into their own hands. Well, the industrial waste is just something they're doing by themselves anyway. By themselves? They have a pretty good strategy. You see, in order to hinder construction, they spread industrial waste over by the dam site. Then, blaming it on corrupt contractors, they start instituting these inspections. There, they stop every construction vehicle coming through and interfere with them as much as possible. So then, it's one of those methods the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance is using. With that inspection just now, this car's license plate has probably been recorded. It shouldn't get stopped from here on out. Those guys know very well not to get me angry. See, rumor is that if they figure a car is related to the construction in some way, not only would there be checkpoints stopping it at every turn, but they'd be throwing rocks and planting road spikes as well. It's best you be careful so you're not identified. If they found out you're from public safety, so who knows what you'll suffer through. Oishi was acting like they were talking about something fun, but for me, it was no laughing matter. It almost feels like we've wandered into a civil war in the Middle East. Sounds about right? Nah, that's a good way of putting it. It's pretty much just what you said. Oishi turned to me with a grin and menacing laugh. You see, this here's a war zone. Right? Yeah, the amount of stuff going on in the Middle East nowadays. The cars slowed down a bit as it went down a narrow road through some farmland. You see that house in the forest over there? That antiquated one? Looking where Oishi was pointing, there certainly was an old traditionally designed house. That belongs to the mayor, Old Man Kimiyoshi. You could say it belongs to the main Kimiyoshi house as well. There's a lot of branches, but they'd be one of the three families. The three families? The ancient families that control Hinamizawa? That's right. And one of the others is the Furude family, Their house doesn't even have a single branch, as all that's left is the head priest family. Right over there, there's the shrine. He's the priest there. By the way, the Defense Alliance office is on the grounds of that shrine. The office of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. If these guys were the enemy, that would make the shrine their stronghold. Can we look over there? The shrine is the Furaday's family's private property, you see. Being police, we can't set foot there without a warrant. See, they've got a member of the Diet with ties to the village backing them up. Basically, being the police has its strengths and weaknesses. Well, even when we talk about the three families, that's something from a long time ago. Way back when, those three families used to hold councils to decide things about the village. Meaning, it's different now? You've got a pretty good nose. That's what I expect from an academic. The car braked to a halt with a squeal. Ahead of where we were stopped were several signs. Private property beyond, no trespassing, beware of poisonous snakes, danger, turn back. Intruders will be charged an entry fee of 1 million yen. Signs were erected there with things like that written on them. The roads was separated from the forest by a chain link fence wrapped in barbed wire. Since this is private property, this is as far as we go. There's several surveillance cameras set up further in. Saying that we just got lost, don't work with these guys. They're beyond here, right? The people currently controlling Hinamizawa and the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance were neither the Kimiyoshi family nor the Furaday family, but the last of the three. Yeah, beyond there is one of the three families, the Sonosaki family. They're the ones controlling Hinamizawa from the shadows. Among the list of executives recorded in the documents, the number of people with last names from the three families was quite high. Of course, Sonosaki was no exception. However, at the top was the Kimiyoshi family. If the Kimiyoshi family seemed to be in charge, the rulers behind the scenes were the Sonosaki family. This double-layered structure implicitly told me that this village had both a light and a dark side. The current head of the Sonosaki family is an old lady named Oryo. She has enough clout that you could call her Empress Sonosaki. Be careful, she's no small fry. She's enough of a VIP that even the mayor of the city has to bow before her. Well, in Hinamizawa and the surrounding area, their relatives amount to a small block of several thousand votes. No politician could show disrespect for that. No. In other words, that would make her the actual leader of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance, right? You've got it. With those words, Oishi pulled out a well-worn cigarette box. The suspected kidnapping of the minister's grandchild and subsequent threats, were these part of the hidden plot by the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance in order to have the Hinamizawa Dam project cancelled? You came all the way from Tokyo to investigate this, didn't you? Huh? Ah, yeah. That's right. Something the matter? Ah, then, is it related to that direct appeal incident with Minister Inu guy? If that's the case, then public safety has him marked on a watch list. Something like that? Having you guess that so quickly makes this easy. While exhaling out cigarette smoke, Oishi smiled broadly, like I just pulled a good one on him. Or as so I thought, his smile disappeared suddenly. That's a lie, isn't it? Huh? I mean the direct appeal, putting them on a watch list. That's a lie, isn't it? Oishi knew there was no way that Tokyo HQ would dispatch an investigator over something as minor as a direct appeal. If they were to dispatch someone, it had to be for a more dire reason. He had figured out as much. I thought of myself as the person who doesn't let things show on their face. In front of his watchful gaze, however, I felt that I was thinking was completely laid bare. Oishi suddenly lit another cigarette, as if waiting for me to interject during this awkward pause. And I see. So this was a veteran detective's way of getting someone to spill information. But as long as I realize this, there will be nothing more. If I didn't open my mouth, I wouldn't have to lose anything. All I had to do was stare out the window and enjoy the scenery until Oishi gave up. Oh my god, I keep saying like, no, like Curly used to say. You are really bad at hiding things, you know. Being so young and earnest isn't so bad. Oishi smirked as he twisted out his third cigarette, while I tried not to let him notice that I yielded completely. At first, I thought I had won, but at the very least, Oishi had ascertained that I was hiding something. Meaning that I've ended up marching to his tune. Oishi started up the engine once again and began to move the car. If you'd just been honest with me, I thought I might have been able to help you. How would you help? If the cat was out of the bag, I might as well use it to catch some mice. Well, this depends on what you're talking about, but I might be able to set you up with someone who's knowledgeable about the going-ons in Hinamizawa. An informant? No. I see, is that what you call it? Are you interested in my case? As certain. Well, thanks. In my case, Oishi-san. Well, I'm the same as you. Isn't it our business to know things? Being able to meet with Oishi's informant was an extremely compelling opportunity. We were looking to recruit somebody familiar with the area to collaborate with for intelligence. In the end, there was no better method for finding people than asking. We were always taught, however, that the rank and file police were no better than monkeys. Unlike us, they were careless with confidential cases. We looked down on them like they'd run their mouth off in a drunken stupor. I don't know. Oishi was an outlaw even amongst them, and here I was lost on whether or not I should tell him about the kidnapping of the minister's grandson. This informant, exactly how knowledgeable are they about the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance? If you're from public safety, you'd know, wouldn't you? Something like that is something I can't can't just tell you. Protect your sources. That was the first principle of dealing with confidential information. In that regard, it seemed that Oishi wasn't one of those monkeys. Should I trust him, ask for help, or not? It's just that you work for the feds. I work for the prefecture. I don't think that our jobs are that different. I think I can be of help. However, I had trouble believing that this crafty old man would simply help me just like he claimed. Oh yeah, that song again. I find it hard to believe that someone of your standing would help me out without strings attached. Well, it's not like I'm completely without an ulterior motive. As I recall, you guys have space in your budget allocated to pay informants, right? Something you don't need to submit a receipt for. Just a little bit of that would be the cost of meeting with the informant. In other words, give the compensation earmarked for the informant to you first. Well, it helps that detail of this deal are so clear-cut. He certainly was something else for being able to brazenly state his ulterior motives like this. Rather than him doing his out of the kindness of his heart, was everything a lot clearer if he was being compensated for his deal. I felt that he was the type of man who was good at these backroom dealings. Don't misunderstand me, please. It's not me who needs the money, it's the informant, okay? Well, in regards to the payment, I'll be handling the money. When do you want it? Right now would be good. If you don't have it tomorrow. If you don't have it on you, tomorrow works as well. I pulled out a wallet that was different from my personal one. The price was pretty much fixed depending on what kind of information I was paying for. In this case, the payment was upfront. Also considering the fact I didn't know what kind of info I would get, I shouldn't pay too much. But I suggested that Oishi suddenly stretch out his hand and tightly grasp the contents of the wallet. At times like this, it's best for you to not be so stingy. It's alright, it won't go to waste. I understand, I won't be stingy. And what kind of information are you looking for? Depending on what you want, how we approach this will probably change. You swear you won't spread this information to anybody else, Oishi-san. I can't swear as much. I'm the same as you. I can't withhold information obtained during the course of my duties. I got it, I swear. Nothing here gets said anywhere else. On top of that, thanks to you, I can pay back to what I owe from my mahjong debts. Stingy, thank you. I won't break a promise that involves money. From my mahjong debts. In any case, I won't break a promise that involves money. No. I'm still unsure if I should trust him until the very last moment, but in the end, I broke down. Oishi wasn't the type of guy I could trust 100%, but there was no mistaking he had access to underground information networks. In order to accomplish my mission swiftly, I needed his cooperation. I set my resolve. I'm investigating whether or not Onigafuchi Defense Alliance is related to a certain incident. Certain incident. There's a possibility that the Minister of Construction, Inugai, is being coerced by someone. Saying there's a possibility is a kind of roundabout way of putting it. It appears there's a mole close to the minister, and due to that mole, the minister had been monitored quite thoroughly and was seemingly forced to cede to their threats right away. None of this was reported to us or the police. I see. So that's why you're saying there's only a possibility he's being coerced. In that case, isn't it a little strange? If the minister didn't report this to anybody, how did you guys know about this incident? If we didn't spy on the minister's private life, we would have never found out. I don't think we have to provide that explanation to the informant, so I'm omitting it. Oishi had apparently caught on and quietly chuckled when I refused to explain. I see. There's a spy close to the minister, so public safety made it highly classified in a highly classified investigation. That certainly isn't a very amicable story to it. If this matter became public, not only would this affect the minister's political career, but the possibility of there being a shift in the political landscape is extremely high. If the if the perpetrator's aim is indeed that, then this could develop into a very grave situation. Well, with the government having development projects all over the country, they butted heads with quite a few people. It wouldn't take much wrongdoing for the left-wing parties to suddenly garner more support. We're currently investigating what demands are being forced on the minister, but at least we have a good idea of how he's being threatened. How? The minister's grandson was kidnapped. They're denying it, but judging from when he was last seen, it's believed it's already been 72 hours since the kidnapping. So, 3 days. Looks like I got Steam cards. So in 3 days, if they were just after ransom money, this would have been settled by now. And maybe this isn't for monetary gain. The possibility that they're forcing the minister to do something is politically extremely high. That's something we just can't consent to. So then, Onigafuchi Defense Alliance was listed as one of the possible perpetrators. That is correct. Kidnap the minister's grandson and demand cancellation of the dam project. What do you think, Oishi-san? From your point of view, do you think that's possible? Oishi seemed to ponder to that idea for a while. The section chief at the regional office had responded immediately with, "It's possible." However, Oishi, who was this well informed about the matter, was hemming and hawing. Okay. Sorry about that. Finally, just a little bit. He said something that was really just a little bit strange. This was before the Meiji era, you see. This wasn't named Hinamizawa Village back then. It was called Onigafuchi. Nah, this is just what I want to hear from my grandmother. The topic was so completely and suddenly unrelated to the subject of the kidnapping of the minister's grandson that I was taken slightly aback. Onigafuchi? Oh, so that's why they're called the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance. You see, the village of the Onigafuchi was said to be inhabited by demons that devoured humans. Even now, it's believed that the blood of these demons partially courses through the veins of the villagers. Demons that devour humans? Oishi-san, what are you saying? It's information. I got a lot from you just now. A little too much. In exchange, I'm giving you a little freebie. Oishi finally smiled, but it didn't seem like he was fooling around. Please continue. You see, these human-devouring demons, normally they were revered as Taoist transcendents and lived tucked away from the rest of the world. But they ate people, after all, so apparently they'd go to villages in the foothills and regularly abduct their prey. They used to call that being demoned away, or onikakushi. Demoned away? It was the first time I heard such a peculiar phrase. Oh god. However, I felt something slightly ominous from this horrifying tale of demons abducting people in order to eat them. Look, you know how there's a common phrase spirited away? When people suddenly go missing one day, they call it that. When the same thing happens around here, they call it being demoned away. How does that old tale relate to the matter at hand? Oh no, there's no direct relationship. I'm just making some small talk here. It's just... Ka-thump, ka-thump. The car shook. At some point, the gravel road had changed to a paved one. It's just what? That around here, the phrase demoned away is just somewhat of a code for disappearance and kidnappings. I just thought I mentioned that. I don't know if this has anything to do with the kidnapping of the minister's grandson. Well, there's no deep meaning behind it. It's just there's a little bit of history in Onikakushi. Human-eating demons coming down to the foothills and abducting their prey. Then, in order to cancel the dam project that threatened to submerge the village they lived in, did they demon away the Prime Minister's grandson? Then, had they already made an example of the minister's grandson and eaten him alive? It's a bit of an interesting old tale, isn't it? If you set foot into the demon's village without reason, you'll probably be captured and eaten alive. So don't go near Onigafuchi. Kids these days wouldn't have these superstitions, would they? Even amongst the older folks in Okinomiya born in the Meiji era, there's quite a few who wouldn't heed these warnings. Hinamizawa village was feared by the people in the area. I recall that piece of information from the Prefectural Public Safety Division. In any case, we're in the boonies out here. It's it's kind of expected that there'd be some superstition around. Somebody from Tokyo, like you, Mr. Akasaka, or Akasaka-san, probably couldn't even begin to imagine it, could you? The man-eating demons, as a price for violating the sanctity of their village, kidnapped the minister's grandson and swallowed him whole. That ludicrous idea flew through my head. It was so absurd, I was half disgusted with myself. Oishi was just teasing me. Stupid. It was all really stupid. Come to think of it, by then, I may have already been seized by the curse of that dubious village. For me to realize that would take a little more time. Oh. At least we finished the first chapter. Oh, I see what they did there with the image for the achievement. Yeah, let me save this and save this for backup. Anyway, be right back. I gotta get a quick drink. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I'm surprised. I'm surprised by the by no drop frame rate. Oh, really? It's tough when it's such a sudden assignment. Please be careful. Where are you headed? You're already there? Whenever I head out on assignment, she would ask where. Not just Yukie, but anybody would have asked the same question. If it was a cold place, she would urge me to pack a thick jacket. If it was far, she warned me to be careful on the drive over. It was just a normal everyday concern that led to asking an obvious thing. And I felt sad that I couldn't answer such a run-of-the-mill question. Sorry, it's something that you can't talk about, isn't it? Please be careful. What, Usagi? Sorry, Yukie. Wow, I haven't heard that song in a long time. At some point, you started apologizing right away, even though when you first started your job, you were all gung-ho about it. Yukie laughed as though she had realized something. At times like this, Yukie had the magical power to see right through me. It's already been quite a while since I was admitted to the hospital. Are you finally getting lonely? Don't tease me. I'm too old to get lonely. Oh, really? You actually like to be doted on, don't you? Don't you start getting a little faint of heart when I'm not around? Oh, I see. Aw, jeez. I can see the little devil's horn sprouting from your head right now. You've always been like this. You can't hide it. You can't hide it. If I don't play with you, you get all lonely. I can hear your tail wagging over the phone. The side of Yukie wasn't something you could guess existed. You could guess existed from seeing her usual modest behavior, and it was something that she didn't know to anybody else but me. Normally I poke her to hide my embarrassment. Oh god. Yeah, it seems like I can't even read tonight and bring an end to the conversation, but I couldn't do that over the phone. Of course, Yukie was clever. She was teasing me because of that. I wonder when I figure out that giving you grief was this much fun. Give me a break. In any case, it's good to hear you so lively. I know, right? Did I cheer you up? I had called Yukie to keep her from feeling lonely when she was by herself in the hospital room. Of course, there was nothing more than a pretense that I, being shy, had come up with. It seemed that Yukie had long since seen through the act. Yeah, please phone again. When I'm not feeling up to it, I'll get my father to talk with you. Although if you're talking with my father, I get the feeling that you'd be standing at attention at the other side of the line. For a little longer, Yukie kept teasing me without letting me end the call. Ugh. Doesn't sound good. Yeah, I think I'll end the stream after I read all these tips. I really can't read today. Chairman. Members of the party, congratulations are due as we are celebrating 25 years since our founding. These past 25 years have seen much growth in prefecture. The once quiet scenery of nothing but fields now has seen the opening of a new stop for the bullet train, and with the development of the highway, we've seen the rebirth of a modern city bursting with youthful energy. We've reaped the benefits of new businesses and industry. As with special reverence, the residents of XX Prefecture have time for honored traditions, history and culture, business, and industry. With these ideals in harmony, they have accomplished in growing their city into one of Japan's foremost metropolises. Now, of course, the development of Prefecture couldn't have happened without the growth of the party. We are resolved to see every one of 4 campaign promised to fruition. Reaching our targets definitely and expediently, like arrows fired from a bow. With these arrows, our fundamental basis of the party, our members have sought to pierce the obstructions preventing the happiness of the residents of Prefecture. But I do believe that everybody here is unlike an ordinary arrow. While being an unfaltering and straightforward, we have not neglected in seeking situations that conform to the current day and age while also keeping an eye on the future. An arrow, once loosened, can fly to its destination. Everyone here, however, is no simple arrow. Even once loose from the bow, without neglecting our studies, while employing new methods, thus being and implementing more effective and flexible ideas, and being able to change trajectories mid-flight, we are magical arrows. The modern age marches ever forward. Sometimes it marches faster than the time taken from planning to execution. The following part was not in the script. It is thought to have been ad-libbed by the minister. For example, there have recently been numerous problems with the Hinamizawa power plant project. Rather than forcing through the project slowly because it is decided upon the government, it is necessary to reflect on and adjust to the ever-changing needs of the residents, the region, and the next generation. The protests led by the local residents have surrounded the Hinamizawa Dam. There are also the will of the people of Prefecture. If you feel there is no need to listen because the project has already been finalized, then you do nothing more than shed a poor light on Japan's post-war democracy. The following is as per the script. For last seen the happiness of the residents of Japan or the citizens of Japan and residents of Prefecture, please consider these policies thoroughly. And I believe, however, we have all gained something from the flexibility and foresight of the party. I've taken up much of your time, however, allow me to say the following to celebrate the 25th anniversary of our founding. Chairman, members of the party in attendance, thank you very much for today. From the opening remarks of Party Prefectural Forum and 25th anniversary celebration. The world is filled with people blessed with relationships. Of course, that doesn't mean everyone is connected to each other. It's obvious that on the other side of the planet there are people laughing and crying who can't possibly have an effect on you. However, in an extremely limited community of the neighborhood, that sort of connection is just a matter of fact. It's quite possible that the single remarkable event could have massive consequences inside a small community. If you were able to increase that in scale, a perfect stranger on the other side of the globe might become enough of a legend to have an effect on our lives. Well, it's not always that way. Like I said at the beginning, the links between people basically aren't that relevant in the grand scheme of things. Whether some household nearby is having a steak or croquettes, doesn't matter to me. When I put on my shoes, it doesn't matter to anybody whether I put on the right one or the first or the left. This much the average person can understand, but actually in reality, this is the truth. The bonds between people are quite well defined. It's not just a matter of distance, of being far or near. For example, let's say that person A's action have some effect on me. Even then, person B's action could have absolutely no consequence on my life. The reverse also holds true. Just because my actions affect person A, that doesn't always mean that they affect person B as well. Let's put it bluntly. If the bonds between people are like gears in a machine, the gear that represents me meshes with some people, but is isolated from others. There are some who would try arguing against this. Those people would bring up the examples of gears in a clock. Each gear, indeed, only directly meshes with one or two others. However, I can't even read. Yeah, I seriously can't read today. If you rotate one gear, the one next to it is moved, which connects to the next one, and the next. In the end, all gears are moving. There is logic behind this, and more than enough to convince the average person. Why is the argument convincing? The answer is simple. The relationship between people are ambiguous and can only be described conceptually. How the gears are connected and how their movements are chained together can't be used as a fundamental explanation, so it throws a wet blanket on that argument. So for the people who like that explanation, I'll use the example of the clock again to refute it. First of all, to say that this world is a singular clock would be wrong. That is, there isn't only one clock, there exist many clocks in the world, each counting their own time. If you think about it, the idea that this world is just one big clock is a height of arrogance. Even if you use the analogy of gears to explain human relationships, then you should be able to explain it using an analogy of multiple clocks unrelated to a single gear. Neighbors A and B. A is a gear in the same clock as me, so it's best to remain civil. B is a gear in a different clock, so he doesn't really matter to me at all. And that's the kind of clear distinction I'm talking about. You want to say I'm being fallacious? And let's change the analogies to something more familiar so you can understand. You've probably heard the phrase, a fire in the opposite shore, sometime in your life, no? No? For example, if your neighbor's house was on fire, you'd probably try and help to put it out, wouldn't you? It'd be awful if the fire spread and burned down your house after all. But what if that fire was in a town on the opposite side of the river? Would you still go out of your way to help? You wouldn't you? Even though it would be the wrong thing to do, there's no way the fire could spread to your own house. Even if it turned into a huge conflagration, there's no relation between the house that would spread fire to yours and those that won't. With this basic example, you should be able to see the difference between gears that are or aren't related on your own. Having said that, there's a lot to think about. Even without a river to divide it, after all, it's not a spital problem like being on the other side of the river, is it? Okay, one more and I'm gonna call it a night. I think I still have a lot in my mind as yesterday. Yeah, I had a really bad day yesterday, so I apologize, you guys. The car has stopped, but he didn't know any more than that. For not only was he blindfolded, but locked in the trunk of the car. How could people become this powerless just by being robbed of their sight? He absolutely wouldn't have known this without experiencing it firsthand. He soon realized it was pointless to try and undo his bond, with the confines of the trunk quickly making him lightheaded. He had no choice but to let this mild torture dull his sense. That's why, when the car stopped and the unpleasant vibration ceased as the engine was killed, he couldn't help but delude himself that he was being set free, even though nothing had been resolved in reality. And of course, he was soon removed from that delusion. He strained his ears, even when he heard one of the men who had abducted him and an older man he was hearing for the first time strike up a conversation.
Nice to see you. The chick is in the trunk. He struggles so much that he's probably exhausted right now. But there's not a mark on him. Just disordered. Oh, must have been handful.
The trunk opened, letting a blast of fresh, cool air. Even though up until now, he had been thinking about getting out of that stuffy trunk, when it had actually opened, he suddenly became uneasy. Even enough so that he wished that the lid of the trunk was once again closed, separating himself from them. Suddenly, somebody stroked his head. Of course, since he was blindfolded, he couldn't tell if the hand was petting him or simply evaluating how easy it would be to remove his scalp. Unable to tell the difference, he could only freeze as he imagined the worst case scenario.
Poor little bugger. He's shaking. Just stay calm for a bit.
The older man said that kindly as he gently stroked the boy's head.
This must be real tough for you. But you see, your Gramps is a nice man, and I'll help you soon enough.
Having heard nothing but the average standard dialect his whole life, the older man's distinct intonation left a deep impression on the boy. But he had no idea what he was saying. For your Gramps to register as meaning your grandfather took a while to process. Eventually, the hand he was stroking his head loosened the blindfold.
Can't keep his eyes covered. If he splits his face open, it'd be bad. And with that,
we might as well take out that gag. It can't breathe like that. It'll be trouble if he yells. Oh my god, my southern impression. Leave him to us. Geez, you guys don't know how to treat somebody. The main family said no rough stuff. You better remember the rail. Oh, well, yeah. Won't do anything stupid, as long as the kid cooperates, that is. The man's head prodded roughly and repeatedly at the boy's head. A rugged hand, unlike the affection one that had been stroking his head before. Just stay cooperative. If you struggle, there's no guarantee that what will happen. That cliche threat was literally beaten into his head. Yeah, I think that's all of them I read. Alright, that's it for the final part of Higurashi so far. You guys, I'll continue this tomorrow. And if I don't... I got before September 30th, so maybe I'll spend time on the weekend since I'm not doing anything then. So, yeah. And no, I'm not gonna be like those guys who say like, subscribe, follow, blah, 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 blah. This is my usual catchphrase since, like, in my early days of streaming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.